Good evening, sir. Today the topic is continence in anorectal malformation. So we'll be discussing under the side headings like definition of continence and definition of incontinence, assessment of continence, review of literature, management of incontinence, and long-term outcomes on bowel management program. Definition of fecal incontinence will be inability of control over defecation leading to involuntary loss of bowel contents, both liquid and stool elements, and mucus and solid feces. Whereas anal incontinence will be even this loss includes the flatus. This is referred to as anal incontinence. Anal incontinence is more worse than fecal incontinence. True fecal incontinence is seen in surgical patients, that is ARM and Hirschsprung's disease, as well as acquired or congenital spinal problems. Pseudo incontinence occurs in patients who had potential for bowel control, but those whose constipation lead to overflow or soiling. That is called pseudo incontinence. Physiological factors that that helps in continence will be intact anal sphincters, anorectal sensation, rectal compliance, colon transit time or motility, stool volume and consistency, adequate cognitive function, appropriate bathroom facilities, and position of defecation. Now, assessment of continence, we'll see how to be assessed. First, what are the predictors of prognosis? There are good prognosis will be normal sacrum, prominent midline groove, and malformations like vestibular fistula, imperforate anus without fistula, cloaca with common channel less than 3 centimeters will have good prognosis. Whereas poor prognosis will be seen in abnormal sacrum, flat perineum, rectobladder neck fistula, cloaca with more than 3 centimeters common channel. Whereas rectoprostatic fistula will be having 50%, 50% of chance of good and poor prognosis. This is ARM continence index. This we can assess by type of ARM, spine, and sacrum. When it comes to when the score is like 3 to 4, it will be a good potential for continence. When 5 to 6, it will be fair potential for continence. When it is 7 to 9, it will be poor potential for continence. This is how we'll be numbering the scores. These are the other different scoring systems, how we assess the continence after post-operative period. This is when it comes to PINA, it will be only 4 voluntary bowel movements, soiling, constipation, and urinary incontinence. This is easy to remember based than the other scores because they will have more number of entities in it. Coming to Kelly score, it will be only staining or smearing, accidental defecation like soiling, strength of puborectalis muscle. This can be done only with anorectal manometry and all. Coming to Rintala scoring and Horschneider scoring, Horschneider score will be having frequency, how many frequencies of defecation, fecal continence, soiling, sensitivity, anorectal pressure profile, maximum pressure at maximum squeezing, adaptation reaction. This Horschneider scores has a flaw like anorectal pressure, it will be from 20 to 24 mm Hg is the maximum that he took. But normal pressure, normal resting profile pressure should be 30 to 40 mm Hg, but it's very less. So when it compares to Horschneider scores, the continence scores are given more. I mean, the continence rates are more when he's scoring systems. When it comes to Rintala scoring and all, it's mainly on the questionnaire like ability to hold back defecation, field reports of urge to defecate, frequency of defecation, soiling, accidents, constipation, whether it's manageable or not manageable, and social problems like psychiatric issues. So these are the things we see in Rintala. We'll just see the overview of literature. How are the continence scores in the various groups? Generally, the correct when it comes to correct and successful operation, 75% have voluntary bowel movements after the age of 3 years. Half of them have soiling occasionally, mainly related to constipation because constipation causes pseudo incontinence. When constipation is treated, soiling usually disappears. 25% suffer from the real fecal incontinence that must receive bowel management program. According to Horschneider et al., the children became continent without any need of additional help is 11.8% in high, 22.7% in intermediate ARM, and 63.3% in low ARM. Occasionally, by using of light constipation diet, 35.3% will be continent in high RM, 36.3 will be continent in intermediate RM, and 86% will be continent in low RM. When it comes to PINA, the scoring systems we'll just see what are the common things we'll be seeing in it. In female RMs and all, if you take vestibular fistula, 89 people are estimated in this group which have voluntary bowel movements. In the whole thing, the continent rate the total continent will be 70%. In this, 61% are constipated. That means they are managed mainly with with laxatives as well as diet modifications. When it comes in males, the most common we see is bulbar urethral fistula. This is in this 68 patients are assessed out. That means 82% have voluntary bowel movements. 50% are only totally continent. Of this 50, 64% are constipated, and 53% has soiling rates. So almost 50% is the only continence rate we see in bulbar urethral fistula. When it comes to cloaca, the short common channel, we will be seeing only 50% will be having total continent rate. In that, 40% will be constipated, and 63% will be having soiling. This is mainly related to constipation. This can be corrected with constipation. These are the long-term outcomes. The median age that have taken in the long-term outcomes by Rintala is the median age of 35 years, and Heniska and et al. It will be like 28 years, the median age group. In Heniska, the total number of people added are 58. No one had a normal continence. The good continence is seen in 36%, fair continence is seen in 43%, and poor continence in 21%. When it comes to Rintala, 33 people are taken, out of which good normal continence is not seen. According to Rintala, in his Rintala scoring system, the normal score will be more than 18, and the good will be from about 12 to 16, and fair will be from 7 to 11. So 18% have good continence, fair is 54%, and poor is 27%. Dixon and Puri has normal continence of 15%. Good continence is seen in good and fair continence is seen in 62%, and poor is seen in 23%. This is the long-term outcomes and meta-analysis studies that are available. Coming to fecal incontinence, two well-defined groups, that is constipation, either colonic hypomotility, loose stools or diarrhea, that is colonic hypermotility. How will we evaluate these patients? That is mainly with colonic transit study, either with contrast enema study with hypersoluble material or radio opaque pellets. It can be radio opaque pellets will be a single capsule containing of 24 radio opaque markers of 2 mm length and 6 mm 2 mm diameter and 6 mm length. After giving the radio opaque material, this one, after 72 hours supine X-ray is taken. Based on the number and distribution of colonic markers, we'll say whether it is hypermotility or hypomotility. If it's more than 4 markers distributed throughout the colon, then it will be hypomotility. If less than 4 markers throughout the colon within 24 hours, then it is called hypermotility. And also by distal and electromanometric studies like lesting and squeezing pressure conditions, this is how we'll be differentiating constipation from hypermotility. This is how the supine X-ray is divided into 3 parts, whether it's in the right colon or in the left colon or it's in the rectum. When we see more than 4 pellets that are seen, then we'll be saying it as hypermotility, or if it's more than 4, then it will be hypomotility. If it's less than 4 within 24 hours, then it is called hypermotility. In constipation, the main management program, even after doing RPSRP, will be bowel management program. That is teaching patient or parents how to clean the colon once daily and to stay clean for 24 hours. This is what it is called acceptable continence. BMP should be implicated in children when the child is 3 to 4 years of age. Toilet training should be started as early as possible by 2 years, so that he'll be he will have the constipation free rate, good continence rates. Constipation is generally treated with laxatives or enema. What are the types of enema we are using? Mostly we'll be using saline enema. The saline enema, the starting dosage that we give for constipation children will be 20 ml per kg, and the maximum we can give is 200 to 700 ml per day. and increase or decrease intervals of 50 ml so that we can attain a clear bowel rate. This can be increased or decreased based on the x-rays we take and see how whether child is still having the fecal loading or not. If after saline edema also, if child is still having the fecal loading and all, we can start with glycerin washes. That is, in that it can be, if we are adding glycerin to it, it can be 10 to 20 ml per kg. The maximum dose can be 40 ml. It can be increased and decreased based on the intervals of 10 ml so that we can attain it. When we are taking, if it's not glycerin available, it can be Castile soap. The starting dose will be 9 ml and the maximum dose we can go until is 36 ml. Coming to phosphate enema, a phosphate enema should not be given in neonates or anything. Phosphate enema is only given when the child is like more than 3 years of age, 3 to 8 years of age, or 15 to 30 kg. It's 120 cc. If child is more than 8 years or more than 30 kg, it can be 240 cc. We should not give more than one phosphate enema per day. The most common complication is cramping, abdominal pain. That's how cramping will present. Why we should not give more than one phosphate enema? The phosphate that causes that acts on the renal system and it causes acidosis and all. So will not be given more than one phosphate enema per day. Right enema is the one that can empty the colon and allow him to stay clean for 24 hours. It can be assessed by using a serial abdominal x-rays. The BMP is always a trial and error model that has certain period. This is how BMP chart should be reported. The first, when we are giving on the Thursday, the normal saline amount what we had installed to clean the colon. If not only colon, if we are adding the amount of glycerin, it should be added to this. And this is how charting should be done. How long the enema solution had taken to go in, how long the enema stayed in, and how the any symptoms after giving enema, the total time seated on the toilet after giving enema, and how many accidents in the 24 hours. This is how we'll be seeing, and based on Thursday to Friday, from this Thursday to next Thursday, 7 days, we'll be assessing the whole BMP chart and we'll make the adjustments based on this how the BMP should be shot. That's why it's called trial and error method. Coming to hypermotility, colonic hypermotility, that means it will be a loose stool. So by giving the constipating diet, we can give him the socially accepted continence. The food that loosen the bowels are milk products, fats, fried fruits, vegetables, and spices. But the foods that bulk the stool are apple with skin, rice, bread, soft drinks, pasta, tea, bananas, and potato. If all the BMP mechanisms fail, this is how we do is biofeedback therapy. Biofeedback training is a process of trial and error, same as like BMP, to improve the voluntary control of the response. It's just enforcing the muscle strength through increase the number of muscle fibers innervated by the exiting nerves. The biofeedback therapy is just a behavior modification that can use it to train patients to defecate effectively. Mainly, we can see the patients are taught to brace the abdominal wall muscles and relax the pelvic floor muscles during defecation. This we can see in the manometry, we can see in the system when we connect it to the probe to the anal canal, and the effects to modify the sensory perception of the rectum. If even this also fails, then we should be going for surgery. Before surgery, we should evaluate the patients with MRI. Why MRI is because previously we should have done X-rays and all. Even after that, still we can't rule out all the spinal or vertebral anomalies that is causing the fecal incontinence. So the contrast enhanced MRI have been used to assess the status of lumbosacral vertebra, spinal cord, and the integrity of levator ani along with the striated muscle complex. As I said, the abnormalities of vertebra and spinal cord can be ruled out, and it's also revealed excess fat outside the neo or anorectum. If behind the rectum or anywhere, if the excess fat is there, he can't have that perception to pass the fecus. So, what are the operations to improve the continence after the previous surgery? The redo surgery can be considered in children with fecal incontinence. If child is, as I said previously, this is how we the good prognosis and bad prognosis factors remembers. The redo operation is done only in the previous, good prognosis children. That after doing previous surgery, if good prognosis children undergo the redo surgery based on the surgeon's preference. 50% children operated under these specific circumstances have significant improvement in the bowel control. Coming to the principles of the redo surgery, the secondary levator of repair of levator ani, substitution of levator by muscle flaps, strengthening of levator by muscle flaps, and construction of sphincter from the bowel itself, and electronic devices to stimulate the muscle, and restoration of dermal sensibility, especially if child is having mucosal ectopy or rectal prolapse. As I said, the indications will be the same. The good prognosis indicator should be always taken for the redo surgery. If child is having poor prognosis or anything, taking up for a redo surgery doesn't not much help. The coming to content catheterizable channels, if all the things fail, and this can be only used if child is having colonic hypomotility, not in colonic hypermotility. The concept of CIC was first introduced by Lepidis in 1972. After that, Paul Metrofinoff has modified in 1980 is the first continent cecostomy, that is Metrofinoff, for neurogenic bladders and all was performed. Based on this principle, the first continent cecostomy was performed by Mellon in 1990. The continent catheterizable channels are both used in G18 and urinary problems. MACE is a male Mellon antegrade colonic enema. The advantages of this is it is easy to access to the colon compared to retrograde irrigations and one-way effective irrigation. The smaller volumes for irrigation and psychological comfort. But the limitations will be the suitable anatomy, sufficient length of colon, absence of other distal stenosis, motivation of patients and caregivers, and technical issues. What are the techniques for Mellon procedure? This can be by disconnection and reimplantation of appendix or orthotopic appendicostomy or tubularized cecal or colonic flap or transverse tubularized ileal tube. The other will be cecostomy button, percutaneous cecostomy catheter, and LACE. LACE is a left colon antegrade continence enema. Coming to the technical details of MACE, bowel preparation should be done with broad spectrum antibiotic coverage, and appendix pedicle is mobilized and the blind tip is opened. Appendix is detached from the cecum, same as appendicectomy, and inverted and anastomosed to the cecal mucosa after creating a submucosal tunnel formed along the tinea. The seromuscular layer is closed on the top of the to form the anti-reflex mechanism. That's how we do for Metrofinoff, same as Metrofinoff. It is completed by cutaneous anastomosis, and the cecum or colon are attached to the anterior abdominal wall. That's how MACE. This is the cecostomy button, what we are seeing, that is attached to the cecum. It is same looking like a Mickey button. I mean, same as a how feeding gastrostomy or feeding jejunostomy tubes are placed. Coming to LACE, left colon antegrade continence enema, the segment of left colon will be tubularized with a blood supply from the two blood vessels to avoid ischemia and intubated for 30 days to allow it from healing. The success rate with LACE is 83%. When it comes to MACE, it is 70 to 100%. The main complication will be stomal stenosis is 17%. When it comes to right colon, that is MACE, it's 10 to 30%. The amount of enema as well as the transit time is less compared to the right colon enema. That is how the LACE is more useful than MACE. This is how the procedure is formed, and the left colon flap is raised over the two vascular pedicles, and we insert a Foley's catheter, and the flap is reconstructed over the Foley's and anastomosis is made, and this is left for 30 days so that it helps for healing. The other electrical devices, the novel therapies that are modifying in developing to maintain the continence is artificial sphincter shape memory alloy. This is a simple structure with good durability. The aim is to sandwich the bowel between the two plates covered by a silicone rubber. It is designed to generate a pressure of 40 mm Hg pressure with electrical current when electrical current is not supplied. The electrical current is the muscular stimulus that we get directly from our body. It's not the electrical current what we are giving. Electrical current when electrical current comes, the two plates bend to form an almond-like shape with a maximal gap of 33 mm between the two plates. This is how they will open so that child will pass the stools. If not, the resting pressure will always be 40 mm Hg, so that child will be maintaining the continent rates. This is not tried in humans yet. This is done in piglets until now. This is what the flaps I told, the two flaps with this showing in between the, I mean, this model is showing the rectum that's containing the two flaps. If child is, there is no electrical stimulus, then it will be closed. If there is electrical stimulus, then it will be opened so that child will pass stools. Thank you.
Dr. Rohit, it was a good presentation, crisp and short, and I think you covered most important things, including the mechanism of continence and then the problems with incontinence management, all those things.
Yes, sir.
So now just open for discussion, sir.
Rohit, have you seen any patients you have managed with the bowel management program?
Yes, sir.
You have managed?
Yes, sir.
How many patients you have managed? With the MACE or with the enemas?
Enemas, sir.
You have not done MACE in any?
MACE, I mean, 4 to 5 patients underwent MACE, sir.
You have seen any patients with MACE?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How do you instruct them how to do MACE?
MACE, it will be placed on the, if it's only MACE, we'll be placing in the umbilicus, or if it will be in the right iliac fossa. Once it's in the right iliac fossa, the catheter is passed directly into the cecum, sir. Then we'll be starting giving enemas. Once the enema is given, we'll ask them how much enema was given and what time child passed stools and what time it was continent.
You are talking theory. I'm asking you practically, how do you explain to the child? See, before you do MACE, do you assess if the child can be managed with bowel management program?
Yes, sir. First, it will be bowel management program will be assessed. Even with the child is severe constipation, then we'll be going for MACE.
So the Rohit, what sir is asking, I feel is that. So how do you assess that is a candidate for a MACE?
That's
first thing.
Once he is
second is so what BMP includes? You are going to train them to give enemas. How do you give enemas? That thing. And yeah, go ahead.
Based on the enema, if he is continent with enema, then we'll be planning up for MACE, sir.
Okay. So what is the advantage of MACE?
I mean, then giving the retro, from the pillow, we'll be giving directly so that it will be easy access and it will be a single flow, sir. And it will be given self also.
Okay. How will the patient be sitting when he takes, he or she will be taking the MACE?
On the, regular, squatting, not the squatting position, sir. English,
Commode.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
No, but
so you should know about all those things because in your practice you should know how to instruct the patients how to go about doing this, because this is a very helpful thing to know, knowledge to have in your practice. And that cecostomy button, what is the name? Just for sake of interest, is there a name for that button?
No idea.
It's called as the CHITE button. CHAIT. CHITE button.
And also, sir, just Rohit, if patient has got hypomotile or say colon is hypomotile, in those situations, do you have any problems with the MACE?
In hypomotility, the MACE will not have much problem, sir.
Okay, sometimes what we have seen in 1 or 2 patients where we give enema, especially when you're, it's not like done a MACE, but you're before contemplating MACE, we are given enema. After enema, baby is not passing back. He's not clearing the enema. There is no return. even after say 20 minutes, 30 minutes sitting in the commode, passing small quantities, not having a effective return of the effluent. In those situations, I think Gauri had one problem in this patient where we have done a mace for this patient. Following mace also, we are not having we are not able to give them a continence, and this baby is to have continuous fecal soiling, small quantity animal fluid is coming up, and the soiling is undergarments and things like that. So in those situations, maybe lace may be better, I feel, because lace is more straightforward and we can clear the left colon easily. And the only thing is that in the lace, they have to take two enemas.
Ah,
So because it may not be having 24 hours of the soiling free period.
okay, sir.
Yeah, correct. I agree with you.
And regarding redo surgery, sir, so just from your input, sir, because if the bowel is not placed properly in the sphincter muscle complex, yes, there will be a good result if the patient is having good prognostic indicators preoperatively. And if the
Yeah,
bowel is
most often what I have found is that you should know what the primary diagnosis is reliably. If reliably you know the primary diagnosis and this patient has failed post-op to achieve continence, and your MRI should be your guide and your clinical examination should be your guide. If it
correct,
is
sir.
a good anatomy before surgery, and if they have not mucked up too much during the surgery and still the patient is having problems, very likely that your redo surgery is going to help this patient. It is a very, very rare situation. This constellation of factors which come
Exactly, sir.
together is very, very rare, where a good surgeon has operated before and by some mild error, this thing has been shifted outside the sphincter. In that situation, I agree, redo surgery helps. I have had maybe 2 or 3 patients in which redo surgery has been done and it has helped. And sometimes an operation which has been done in half-hearted way, like someone has done a primary pull through for a rectobulbar fistula and they have not done it properly. In that situation, sometimes there may or may not be a urinary leak also from the anal opening. In that situation, a properly redone PSRP is definitely going to help the patient.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's what
And
I
also,
feel.
sir, those earlier days when they used to do the sacroperineal pull through Stephens,
Yes,
those times maybe there were cases where they used to go a little laterally or missing
yes,
that SMC and coming a little differently into the SMC.
correct,
Maybe
correct.
with the invent of PSARP and everybody practicing PSARP, that going out of the SMC is very unlikely. So
Yeah, yeah.
the indications for new reduced surgery also very, very less nowadays, I think.
No, I have seen 1 or 2 patients where neonatal pull throughs have been done
Okay, sir. Okay, yeah.
without colostomy.
Oh, okay, sir.
One patient
Primary.
had a urine leak also, so there was no option in that patient. You had to do a colostomy, you had to redo the PSRP. In another patient, there was no urine leak, but there was problem with the continence in that patient. And fortunately, we got that patient in the infancy itself, and we could plan and do the redo. Both these patients were males. And there was
Okay, sir.
another patient who was a female who was probably operated, I think it was operated by a good surgeon. Some issue happened, I don't know what. I did a redo for that patient. It was a rectovestibular or no, it was a rectovestibular fistula. And
Okay.
patient had a normal neo-NS, but had some problem. So I did a redo in that patient and that patient did well. Of course, with a
Okay.
colostomy cover.
Oh, okay. Reduce surgery with colostomy cover. Yes, sir.
Yes. Absolutely.
And sir, I was just looking at some of the literature. Some people have reported where, for example, if there is the vestibular fistula or little more, the fistula is little wider, where they have used that last bit of the fistulous tract also, which is looking like having some sort of a anal columns also. So they have reported better continence with them.
Yeah.
But they also, some of them reported as over continence, means they go for a constipation, they require all those things and all.
Yeah.
So earlier days when Pina started doing it, then he used to discard completely. But in recently also some articles where if you are able to use it, that L columns, and make a wide opening instead of a narrow anus trying to fit that into the SNC. If you made little
Yeah.
more wide opening, there may be possibility of having the sensation, because the anal columns are definitely more sensitive than the skin and other things for even for flatus and also for the fecal matter, liquid fecal matter also.
Correct. Yeah. So Rohit, you should also know the size of the dilator which has to be used at a particular age of the child, and how you should progress the size of the dilator, and how often you should do the dilatation after the dilatation program is completed. All those things you must know. You know that now? Or you will just use it at the last moment. You will, like one of my colleagues used to say, I will just see it and I will just stick it on my brain just before going to the Viva. And then I will forget. But it is important for you to know this when you are practicing.
Okay.
Actually, you are doing surgery and you are following these patients up in your practice.
Okay.
So when
Yes,
do you
sir.
do the first dilatation?
10 to 14
First
days.
dilation after 2 weeks, sir.
10 to 14 days.
On the 14th post-op day. That is usually the second visit to the, yeah. When do you do rectal examination in a case of Duhamel's where you have done a stapled anastomosis?
Then same, sir. After 2 weeks post procedure.
Okay. What specifically do you do when you do a rectal examination
We'll
in a stapled anastomosis?
anteriorly will be from below to anterior will be palpating so that we'll feel the spur.
Now, what exactly you want to looking for? Will there be spur, or you're looking for spur, or you're looking for something else?
See, there are two lines now which you have divided with the staples.
Yes, sir.
Okay, two fresh lines will be created by you,
Ah.
and you'll be dividing that anterior portion of the colon and the posterior portion of the rectum. These two walls you'll be dividing with a linear stapler.
Yes, sir.
Correct now?
Yes, sir.
So you will have two lines.
Ah.
So the feeling is that many times. It is not just occasionally, rarely, or once in a blue moon or something like that. Many times there will be a cross healing between these staple lines. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So what do you do when you do the rectal examination?
We'll feel for the adhesions that are caused.
No, your finger enters the anterior rectum, which is the native rectum.
Okay.
Then you turn the finger towards the sacrum, sacral hollow. No, you will turn your finger, and then you will push your finger towards the posterior wall of the child, the posterior body wall. When you push this towards the sacrum, you will seal the two staple lines.
Yes, sir.
And sometimes actually you will feel the cross healing which has occurred. And because it is very early, the second week or the 15th or 18th day you have done the rectal examination, you will be able to break those synechiae.
Okay, sir.
You will be able to break the synechiae and create a common wall between the pull-through colon and the anterior rectum.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
So every patient who has undergone stapled Duhamel's, you have to do this. It is not necessary in a Duhamel's which has been done with the other conventional clamps.
Okay, sir.
Stapled Duhamel's, you have to do it.
Okay, sir.
Always remember that, because once it heals and you have forgotten to do it after 3 months, it is very difficult. You have to take the child back into the OR and you have to redo the firing of the staple sometimes.
So just one more, just your input on one more case, sir. Right now we have a patient who is having a rectovestibular, anovestibular fistula, sir. So it looks like a rectovestibular fistula also. Now that whole rectum is mega rectum, hugely dilated. It is like more than 50% of the abdominal, the tonsil diameter of the abdomen, and then baby is severely constipated. So this is not like a pouch colon, but X-ray wise looking at it, the pouch looks like a pouch colon, but baby has a vestibular fistula.
Okay.
So we have done colostomy now. So in this patient, what do you think, sir? Otherwise sacrum is normal. Otherwise, no other associations. It doesn't look like a pouch colon. Should we do a PSARP and taper this pouch, or should we go for a complete excision of this pouch and do a abdominoplasty?
No, I think you should just do a PSRP. Wait for it to heal, start the dilatation program, and then
Yeah.
you can put the patient on a bowel management program. It will come down. I have seen this happen.
Okay. Hugely dilated rectum, basically.
I know,
Do
but
yeah. Do
most
you need to
often
do
it is the megasigmoid which causes the problem in these patients. Rectum doesn't
sir.
cause much of a problem.
Okay.
They will
Sigmoid
have
is not.
constipation, but with proper management, aggressive management, they will manage. They will come out of it.
And any role for this rectum which is there? Do you need to do a little more extended tapering rectoplasty, or just whatever we are getting into SSC, that part only we're going to do tapering, sir?
I have not done tapering at all. I have not done tapering.
Okay, sir. Okay. No, when the bowel is very much dilated, if it is going beyond the SMC,
I
that
may
time what
have
will,
done
sir?
for some males with the bladder neck
This is the
fistulae.
X-ray, sir. This is the X-ray.
Which one?
Are
Wow.
you able to see?
Wow. Yeah. Anyway, you have done the colostomy now, no?
Yeah, you have done the colostomy now.
Yeah. I know. And this looks very, very aggressive, simply too much. But I don't know whether tapering is going to help. But if you are technically you are not able to do a proper pull through, maybe you should
Exercise it off.
Yeah, maybe posterior 1V you can take off.
Okay,
you
okay,
have got
sir.
the luxury of a colostomy, so you can
Yes,
do
sir.
that.
Yeah. That's what we are planning to do, a tapering rectoplasty, and then before doing that PSRP, we will do one more DCgram to look at whether this is come back to at least 50%, some percentage of reduction in the diameter, and then also do the tapering during the next PSRP.
How old is this patient?
1.6 years.
Sir, 11 months old, sir.
11 months. Okay.
11 months, sir. Sir, today we operated this side, sir. After doing washes. Hello, sir.
Yeah. Tell me.
There was much improvement, sir. The size of the sigmoid colon was around 8 centimeters, sir. 8 to 9 centimeter maximum.
What about the rectal pouch?
Sir, rectal pouch, we could take out the only sigmoid, sir.
Okay.
Murali sir was also there. He told much improvement is there.
Okay. So once the decompression is done, there is a diameter has come down.
Yes, sir. After washes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, good.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So Venkatesh, since you are doing endorectal manometry and all those things, so what any input from your side for all the PGs and for us also?
Hello.
Venkatesh.
Sir, please. Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, can you ask again, sir? Sorry.
No. So since you are doing this endorectal manometry,
Yes, sir.
and this biofeedback also,
Yes,
so do you want to say something to us?
Sir, most of our cases have minimal differences, not so much, sir, actually. When I find the readings, except for high ARMs where there is associated with sacral agencies, they don't have sphincter activity at all as such. That's only negative thing in anorectal manometry. The pressures are negative. Those who are on MACE, I have done 2 to 3 cases of post MACE where there is no sphincter activity at all.
Okay.
In those cases, remaining all cases, almost the activity in the 4 quadrant activity is good, sir. In 1 or 2 cases only, there is a minimal discrepancy in the activity in the 4 quadrant.
In this the scoring, they are telling maximum at 30 millimeter Hg.
Sir, so it's not like maximum 30, sir. Actually, they can go above 100 and 150, 180 also. I have recorded.
Okay. Have you done any patients?
Normal patients, actually. I don't know
normal
how they patients. Have taken. Sir,
have you any control?
25 to 30 patients I have done anorectal manometry, sir.
Okay, that's a good number.
Yes, sir.
No, but
I have a discrepancy with the Hall-Schneider score of incontinence, sir, actually. He has given above 20 is absolutely normal and above 40 for squeeze pressure is absolutely normal. But whatever the anorectal manometry missions which we have given and which they are quoted according to the literature also, it is 30 to 40 is anal resting pressure is normal for any age group.
Okay.
Actually, but those who are able to understand, then only we can do the anorectal manometry, sir.
So second thing is my question,
Completely.
Venkatesh, when you are noted high pressures in the anorectal manometry, what is
Sir.
their the confidence scores? In the sense of how they are doing, how continence wise?
They are more of constipation, sir. Actually, most of them are on other 4 to 5 patients are there, sir. They have
Okay.
more of constipation issues rather than any other
Were
issues.
there low
So,
anomalies?
sir,
Or
no
what
anomalies,
else?
sir. No anomalies. Intermediate and low RM.
Intermediate and low anomalies.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
They have more of constipation issues, which are settled with laxatives only, sir.
Yeah. So that's what they say. Up to 20 to 50% can be managed with alteration of the diet.
Yes,
So
sir.
that will increase the constipation, increase the overall continence by 50% if you manage the diet properly. That's what.
Yes, sir. Diet and actually in a lower age group, sir, below 8 years, I'm still utilizing that gastrocolic reflex which is present there.
In the
Early
morning.
morning, I used to. I'm telling them to give 80 to 100 ml above 5 years age group, 80 to 100 ml of lukewarm water, which is helping them actually for as a part
Okay,
of
okay.
along with the laxative. If laxative is not they are not following properly or they are not it is not helpful anta, I'm using that gastrocolic reflex which is still persistent in this group.
So in
The
your
constipation is the
study,
major issue, not the colonic hypermotility. I'm using it. It as a
okay,
part.
okay. And have you done any difficography? That cine difficography people
No, sir.
recommend to? No.
Now ಏನು
Okay.
ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ sir. ಅದೇನು ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ.
Okay, because sometimes they say the creating the anorectal angle also is important for constipation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And all those things. So, but anyway, most of the us will try to create angle by taking that hammock sutures, transverse sutures through the posterior wall of
Wall.
the vertical
Full
fibers and getting the rectum underneath. But we are not really assessed by looking at a difficography how it's going to look like that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Thanks, Rohit. It was a good presentation.
Thank you, sir.